I just got back from a 15-minute coffee break and immediately noticed something strange. There were two men in dark suits standing near my workstation. They had passes hanging from their belts and thin folders in their hands. One was wearing rubber gloves and was rummaging through my drawers as if I were a criminal. Another one slowly and carefully photographed my computer screen. The heart did not beat faster. It just fell into my stomach. I immediately understood what the matter was. She came closer, trying to keep her face calm, clutching a cup of coffee. "Do you have a problem?" I asked. The tall man straightened up. "Jessica Alvarez." I nodded. "We're conducting an investigation," he said in a practiced tone, "based on anonymous report." Anonymous. Of course, I didn't have to guess who wrote the complaint. Just 2 tables away sat Cloders, my boss's daughter. She joined the company 3 months ago, and from the very beginning she showed that she considered my position to be hers. I looked at the inspectors and calmly said, "Please check. You won't find anything." But my hands were shaking not from guilt, but from the fact that I knew what Chloe was capable of. From day one, she acted like she owned the office. She interrupted me at meetings, inserting her comments, which were often erroneous. At every opportunity, she reminded him who her father was. I had been working here for 6 years already. I knew the clients, the rules, the systems. My work was unnoticeable, but stable. This is exactly what infuriated Chloe. You can't outshine someone who doesn't even try to shine. The inspectors continued silently, opening folders, leafing through reports, and looking at the computer. Sometimes they exchanged glances, which made it even more alarming. I crossed my arms and fell silent, while thoughts flashed through my head. This is it. She got her way through months of whispers, false concern, and other people's mistakes that were blamed on me. She had been preparing for this moment. I glanced at her briefly. She pretended to be working on a spreadsheet, but her eyes kept darting up to me. She didn't even try to hide her interest. I didn't feel anger. Shame, too. Instead, a strange, calm confidence came over me. Chloe had no idea what she had just gotten herself into. The short inspector opened the bottom drawer of my desk, sorted through notebooks, pens, and a couple of personal items. Suddenly his hand froze. He took out a leather folder, opened it, and frowned. "Jessica," he said slowly, "what is this?" I looked at the folder and felt my chest tighten. She wasn't mine. At least she wasn't there yesterday. Inside are printed letters, notes in someone else's handwriting, and screenshots with errors that are all too similar to those Chloe has been whispering about for the past week. My throat was dry, but I forced myself to breathe calmly. "This is not my file," I said. The tall inspector raised an eyebrow. "But it was in your drawer." "Yes, but it doesn't belong to me," I answered firmly. A chair creaked quietly behind me. Chloe turned to get a better look. For a second, the office sounds disappeared. There was only me, the inspectors, and the folder that could ruin my career left. The inspector flipped through the pages. The face became serious. He showed the sheet to his partner. They exchanged words and whispers, then looked at me. "Miss Alvarez," said the short one, "we need to talk to you separately." Of course. I nodded, keeping calm, because if they were attentive, the truth would reveal itself. And then Chloe's plan will collapse right before her eyes. They took me into a small conference room with transparent walls. Colleagues watched him go, whispered, pretending to be busy with work. I could almost hear rumors that Jessica was under investigation. She was caught with evidence. In the inspector's room, they closed the blinds and placed the folder on the table, just like Licca had in court. The tall man spoke up. "Jessica, according to the rules, we are obliged to check the documents found on you. Can you explain where this folder came from?" I leaned back in my chair and answered calmly. "I've never seen it before, but it was found in your drawer," he noted. "I believe you," I said evenly, "but that doesn't mean it's mine." Niski opened the folder. There are supposedly errors, violations of rules, incorrect actions. There are dates, signatures, and documents. Here's an example. He pulled out a sheet of paper, a letter to a client, where I allegedly indicated incorrect terms. My stomach sank. I remember that letter. I caught the error before sending it, rewrote it, and sent it 10 minutes later. The incorrect version never left the drafts. I looked him straight in the eyes. "This is not the same version of a letter. This is a screenshot of draft that I never even sent, I said. The two inspectors exchanged glances. I've had a feeling for a while now that Chloe was cooking something. She would either deliberately bump into my desk, or jokingly hint at my poor memory at meetings, or hang out on my computer as if waiting for a mistake. And here is her main move, a fake dossier with my mistakes. But Klaus counted. She thought I didn't notice her observations, but I was watching her all this time. The inspectors asked to go through the documents page by page. There were screenshots of tables with errors circled in red. But these versions were not final. The corrected files with my signature and editing time were located on a common server. There were printouts of letters with typos and incorrect dates, but all of them also had corrected versions with timestamps. There were also pages of handwritten notes about me allegedly being late, writing rudely, and risking clients' data. The handwriting was neat, feminine, with curls like a schoolgirl's diary. I showed it on the recording. Do you have handwriting samples of your employees? The high inspector looked at me carefully. For what? Because I always write in block letters. This is indicated in my personal file. This handwriting is not mine. He wrote something down. They asked questions for almost an hour, and then the short inspector tapped the folder. Jessica, do you have any idea who might have drawn up such documents against you? I paused, as if hesitating, and only then sighed. I don't want to make accusations without evidence, but Cloders has said more than once that she wants my position. She has access to my desk. Like everyone else, the drawers don't lock. They didn't answer, but I could tell from their looks that the name was familiar to them. When I returned to the table, Clozilla, she didn't look directly at me, but I could feel the smugness radiating from her. She was confident that she had won. I turned on the monitor and pretended nothing had happened. But inside I was 3 shuga ahead. Chloe thought I would panic or start making excuses. In fact, I also kept my own notes. Not fakes, but real facts. Those little things that everyone usually ignores until it's too late. The inspectors didn't know it yet, but they already had the key to the case in their hands. Much more than a few fake letters. In the evening, when I was getting ready to leave, Klostila stood at my table. She leaned toward the partition and whispered so that no one else could hear. It's been a rough day, Jessica, Chloe said. I looked up. Not as heavy as yours will be. Her smile wavered, but quickly returned. You'll see. It always becomes clear who is really pulling the strings. Yes, I answered quietly. Whenever I was at home, I opened my laptop and checked my notes. Over the past year, I have accumulated a whole archive, not of mistakes, but of conversations, customer reviews, and work reports. All of this painted a completely different picture than the one Chloe was trying to portray. And among these files, there was something special. Proof of her intervention. I caught in my mailbox 3 weeks ago. She accidentally sent a draft with errors to the client under my name, but the system recorded her entry. I took a screenshot and saved it just in case. And now this opportunity has arrived. The next morning, I arrived earlier than usual. The office was quiet and smelled of yesterday's coffee. We didn't have to wait long. At exactly 9:12 a.m., the inspectors appeared again, and the first thing they did was approach me. Jessica, do you have a minute? The colleagues raised their heads. Some exchanged glances. Some pretended not to hear anything. I took a notebook and went with them to the same meeting room. But now there was another man there, Mr. Harrison, our leader. His face was hard. His hands are clenched. It's obvious he hasn't slept all night. The high inspector began. Thank you for your cooperation. Yesterday, we looked at the documents, and some things don't add up. We would like to clarify the details. He handed me the page, the very same screenshot of the letter that Chloe had given him. We checked the client's records, the second said. As you said, the draft was never sent. The final version was correct, but this printout was clearly made from the system. That's right, I replied. But not by me. Harrison leaned forward. Do you have evidence? I opened the notebook, turned the page, and handed it to him. There were dates, times, and screenshots. 3 weeks ago, someone logged into my account from someone else's computer. The officers watched the recordings carefully. Harrison frowned. Who? I didn't answer right away. She lightly tapped her pen on the table. The name is visible in the logs, I said finally. This is not my login. I didn't have to say it out loud. Soon they will see everything for themselves. When I returned to my desk, the atmosphere was different. The conversations died down as I passed by. People avoided looking. Kidu, I understand why, Jessica, whispered my colleague Maria in the hallway. I need to tell you. Chloe says you're under investigation, like you're falsifying documents and covering up mistakes. She assures me the audit has almost proven everything. I closed my eyes for a second. So the planted folder wasn't enough for her. She also decided to spread rumors to ruin my reputation in advance. Do people believe her? I asked. Maria shrugged. Some do. You know, she can convince. Of course. Chloe inherited her father's charm and the ability to turn any story around. Unlike me, she didn't care who she climbed up. That day, I noticed a change. Letters from colleagues became dry. The break room fell silent when I walked in. Even the secretary, who always smiled, now nodded coldly. I understood that poison was being spread, but I reminded myself that appearances were not true. The inspectors were not fools. They had logs, handwriting samples. Time would put everything in its place, but I still had to wait. It's tough. At 3:45 p.m., the inspectors returned. But this time, they didn't call me, but Chloe. Her face was pale, but she gave a tight smile and went with them to the conference room. The whole office pretended to work, but everyone was watching. Even Harrison stood outside the office, arms crossed, watching her. Through the blinds, I could see bits of the stage. Chloe was waving her arms, talking quickly. One inspector was taking notes, the other was staring at her. The longer the time went on, the less confident she became. After 50 minutes, the door opened. Chloe emerged, her eyes red, her teeth clenched. Without looking at anyone, she walked to the desk. The inspectors said nothing, just headed toward Harrison. For the rest of the day, Chloe hardly got up. She typed furiously, but her hands were shaking. Every now and then, she glanced at me, a mixture of anger and fear. And then I realized she still thought she could win. She thought it was a temporary setback, and if she pressed harder, whispered louder, she'd believe her. But the more she tried, the clearer the difference became. Her noise against my silence, her rumors against my facts, her chaos against my calm. That evening, as I was packing, Harrison came to my desk. He leaned over and said quietly, "Jessica, just keep working. Don't get involved." I understood. I nodded, but inside I knew little. Chloe had crossed the line. She wanted more than just my position. She was trying to take my name, my reputation, everything I had built for 6 years. And if she thought I would remain silent, then she didn't know me at all. In the evening, I sat in the kitchen at my laptop and collected all my files, system logs, client reviews, reports, even letters where Chloe had gone beyond the pale. Step by step, the picture was taking shape. I was no longer defending myself. I was preparing to expose her. At 8:31 p.m., an invitation to a meeting arrived. Compliance check. Mandatory. Period. Participants. 2 inspectors. Miss Sweating from HR. Harrison. And at Chloe's request, of course, I didn't print anything, took only a notepad, and arrived exactly on time. The blinds in the meeting room were half closed. The table was perfectly clean. No one was joking. Everyone sat up straight, as if under interrogation. The high inspector began. "Jessica, thank you for have arrived. We have reviewed the documents from your desk and verified them with the system data." Miss Potel nodded. "We will go over the key points, then there will be questions." I folded my hands and waited. The short inspector handed over a page. First, an email with an error from the folder. Server logs confirm that the draft was not sent. The client has a corrected version saved in the correspondence. Everything is correct. He put the second page on top. Second, Luck in Lux. 3 weeks ago, at 1746, your account was opened from Computer 4C. But at 1728, you had already left the building with a pass. Harrison looked at me. "You were outside the office?" "Yes. The pass logs will confirm this," I replied. Miss Potel looked at the inspector. He pushed the table towards me. "Security confirmed." We also checked the cameras from 174 minutes to 1749 minutes. He unfolded the page. The grainy frame shows a row of offices. A figure in a beige coat with his head down is rummaging through my inbox. Even with the poor quality, The profile was recognizable. Chloe's eyes darted to the photo and then away. Anthony, it's impossible to tell who it is, she muttered. The inspector didn't argue. He put a new sheet on top. Third, print logs. The folder contained printouts. They were made on a Nulta 2 and 18:2 printer. The owner of the task was C. Sanders. The room became so quiet that even the noise of the ventilation was audible. Chloe chuckled nervously. We all print in a common queue. It could have been anyone. The high inspector shook his head. This is not a common queue. It requires a network login. There is a user hash in the task data. We checked. Harrison's face turned pale. And why did Mr. Sanders know? After all, he is her father and her superior one level up. Miss Potel answered calmly. He was in a copy of the anonymous complaint. He was suspended today. This should have been done immediately. I continued to breathe evenly. I felt the situation changing, as if the table had finally stood on all four legs. The short inspector continued. We compared the handwriting in the notes from the folder with samples from the personal files. This isn't your handwriting, but it matches the form Ms. Sanders signed when she was hired. The same slanted G with the open loop. I recorded the violation. Chloe interrupted sharply. We encourage reporting problems, right? Or do you punish those who care about standards? Miss sweated, folding her hands. The report is protected. Forgery. No, I didn't forge anything. She's sloppy. Everyone knows. Chloe clenched her jaw. Harrison looked at me, then back at her. We don't know that. I took out my notebook, pulled out a color printout, and put it in front of the inspectors. There's one more thing. 3 weeks ago, a client draft with errors was sent in my name. I noticed it and corrected it. The trace showed a file sent from the CSDS account from Workstation 5 while I was at lunch. I reported it to support, but asked them not to raise the issue unless it happens again. High Inspector, he glanced at the sheet of paper, then pulled a copy out of his folder, apparently. He already knew that. We have it. Thank you. Chloe gripped the edge of the table. You can't prove I did it on purpose. I was helping. Jessica always leaves things unfinished. We're looking into intent, Miss Potel said calmly. And at the same time, there were errors in the processes, including the fact that your father was suspended too late. Chloe turned her head sharply towards her. He didn't do anything wrong, Harrison said. That's exactly why the suspension is necessary, Miss Potel answered calmly. To protect everyone. The high inspector pushed the folder away as if it might spill. Jessica, do you have anything else to add? I remembered everything. The quiet corrections, the short letters, the way conversations broke off when I went into the kitchen. My colleagues averted their eyes. Maria whispered. She knows how to turn everything around. I just want to work, I said. I want my name to mean the same thing, the same as a month ago. There was silence for a few seconds. Then Ms. Potel closed the notepad. Jessica, you are returning to your duties. All restrictions on your accounts are lifted. Chloe, you're being placed on administrative leave with pay while we complete our investigation. Access to systems in the office is permitted only with HR approval. You're suspending me because of a logon printer, because of a shady photo. Chloe cried out. Ms. Potel answered calmly behind the whole picture. Documents, logs, time of events, conflict of interest. We must do this right. Chloe turned to Harrison. Say something. He looked tired, aged. This is the complos. I'm not interfering. This is how it should have been from the beginning. The short inspector was collecting papers, then looked up at me. There will be more questions, but the main thing is already clear. We stood up. The tall inspector said almost softly, we don't like being taken advantage of. When we realized that the print jobs were linked to the complainant's account, he didn't finish and it wasn't necessary. I walked out into the hallway. The sounds of the office returned, keyboards, ringing phones, a mail cart. Maria was standing next to Capra. Our eyes met. She said nothing, just nodded slowly, as if we were standing on the same side again. The monitor on my desk came to life. The client panel. No warnings, no blocks, just a list of names and renewal dates. And I thought it looked beautiful. A minute later, security came up to Chloe's cubicle with Ms. Potel. They talked quietly. Chloe handed over her pass and laptop. Her movements were abrupt, as if she didn't believe this was happening. She didn't look at me. She just walked out, her lips pressed together instead of face. The office wasn't happy. No one clapped. Everyone was staring at their monitors and pretending not to notice. I took a breath and opened the next client file. It's not over yet. Administrative leave is not a death sentence. Politics takes time. Processes must be completed. The end is not a date on the calendar. But for the first time in weeks, I felt like the desk was standing tightly. And then the phone vibrated. Unknown number, internal line. Jessica. The voice was firm, unfamiliar. This is Elaine Mercer, Director of Compensation. I want to meet with you privately this afternoon. I need to show you something. It concerns Mr. Sanders. I looked at the phone, at the blinking cursor on the screen. Of course, there's more. Send an invitation, I said. I'll be there at 3 o'clock. At 3 a.m. I entered the meeting room on the 12th floor. There was a view of the city beyond the glass. Elaine Mercer sat in the room. I had only seen her a couple of times before at general meetings. She carried herself in such a way that she didn't have to raise her voice to be heard. Jessica, she said, pointing to the chair. Thank you for coming so quickly. Her voice was calm, but the folder on the table was too thick. The door closed behind me with a soft click. Elaine opened the folder. We have completed the initial check of the documents placed in your desk. You must know that Chloe's actions were not random. Her father helped her. I blinked. Mr. Sanders? Yes. She moved the sheet of paper. This was an email correspondence. Much was crossed out, but the main thing is clear. The complaint came from his account. He showed Chloe the open copy, advised her, even offered to attach evidence. My stomach twisted. This means that the complaint was not anonymous at all. Elaine nodded. Exactly. We generally welcome employees to raise concerns, but anonymity is not an option. Using the system for personal revenge is an abuse. I looked at the page. I have been working here for 6 years. 6 years without any complaints. With loyal clients, with sleepless nights to make sure everything is right. And my boss decided that his daughter's ambitions were more important than my career. Elaine continued. What's next? Chloe remains on administrative leave. While HR conducts an official investigation, her father is temporarily suspended. We recommend that the matter be referred to the board of directors. I exhaled slowly, not believing what I was hearing. Elaine leaned towards me. Jessica, your record is clean, even perfect. Customer ratings, system logs, colleague reviews. Everything confirms your work. You're not under investigation, understand? For the first time in days, I could breathe easier. Yes, I said quietly. Fine. Now a question for you. She closed the folder and placed her hands on top. What do you want next? The question caught me off guard. What do I want? The first thought is to return to your desk, to work, to the usual. But the usual is no longer there. Chloe ruined everything. I want my work to speak for me, I finally replied. And I don't want to be looking back all the time, wondering who's going to try to harm me next. Elaine looked at me for a couple of seconds and nodded. Fair. I returned to my desk. The atmosphere in the office has changed. People no longer avoided me. Maria came up and smiled, as if apologizing. Daniel from finance brought a folder and was late. He asked how I was holding up. Everything turned out differently. Chloe's booth was empty. The chair is carefully pushed back. Her father's office, with its view from the window, was dark. For the first time in weeks, I was able to breathe freely. An official letter was issued 2 weeks later. Mr. Sanders is resigning as head of the department immediately. Clores no longer works for the company. The message was short and dry, but the shock spread throughout all floors. People were whispering in the kitchen, making guesses. I didn't support the rumors. There was no need. The truth was already in the documents, in the logs, in the handwriting, which was definitely not mine. On Friday, Mr. Harrison called me into his office. He looked tired, older than I remembered, but his voice was confident. Jessica, I have to apologize. I should have protected you earlier. We should have asked questions instead of turning a blind eye. I let politics cloud my vision. I remained silent. Sometimes silence is the only honest answer. He cleared his throat. The council approved my recommendation. As of Monday, you're a senior account manager. Complete control over the client portfolio. I blinked. Seriously? He nodded. You deserved this a long time ago. Companies need people who build trust, not destroy it. In the evening, I was sitting at the kitchen table. I had a promotion letter in front of me. The city lights flickered outside the window. I thought about everything, about Chloe's whispers and her smug smile, how she leaned on my desk, pretending to be confident. She thought about her father, who chose blood over justice, and about the faces from the Comploss department when the truth was revealed. They found not only planted papers, they saw how envy turns into meanness. This is what they usually don't tell you. Real revenge doesn't look like fireworks, public shaming, or loud speeches. It looks like a folder quietly closed on a conference room table, like an empty cubicle on a Monday morning, like people slowly realizing that someone was there all along. I still walk past Chloe's old place every day. It's empty, waiting for a new employee. But for me, it's a reminder. A reminder that no matter what plan someone makes against you, the truth always leaves a mark.